Hi, my name is Hitesh and you're watching Metasploit Extreme on Kali Linux. Now consider this additionally video as an on-demand video. Now there was a question that was being put up to my email that, hey Hitesh, we are facing some problems in downloading and installing the Kali on our virtual machine since it's a very new platform to us for working on the very first time. Now I highly appreciate that you have dropped me an email and your query. So let us proceed in this video on that same. Although I have already created out the series for Kali Linux and this video is being created afterwards, but there is no such issue. You can always drop me a feedback and ask me to create more videos if you are facing any problem, or directly jump on to my email. Now, first of all, as I always say, visit my homepage hiteshchaudhary.com, visit Learn from Hitesh section, and you will be really happy to drop me an email about the deal section. So no more hint for that. Okay, so let us try to visit. First of all, you have to visit kali.org in order if you want to get the Kali Linux. Click here the download section. You can see a white button is out there for the download. Once you will visit it, you will find something like this. Now, you will find a lots of choices for which you can work on Kali Linux. Now, let us try to talk about each of them. Now, in the first of all download section, you can choose a flavor of what's known as the Kali Linux. There is a 64-bit version and 32-bit version. For most of the virtual machine instances, I would highly recommend to download 32-bit version. But if you are willing to use it on a live platform without on the virtual one, you can simply use the 64-bit version as well. And if we take down here, you will also again find a lots of other things like VMware image, Samsung Chromebook, Android, Raspberry, and there is one for Galaxy Note as well. But what I would recommend you before jumping out onto this the Samsung Galaxy platform and Android platform, you should have a bit instance knowledge about how Kali works and how you can utilize it. Also, now you might be asking another question that why cannot we directly download the VMware image? Of course you can download it, you can use it directly by just double click, but I don't recommend that because there is a specific reason. From the ISO image you can create a virtual image and can use it in a VirtualBox or virtual player. But the VirtualBox or image is not capable to converting again back into the ISO. So it's really a good approach to always go for the ISO. So I would recommend the 32-bit version for virtual machines and all of my courses. You can simply say you can download a torrent, or you can simply direct a direct ISO version if you have a high bandwidth. Also there is a mini version, but I don't recommend that. You can simply download this one, the ISO. You can also go for the torrent version if you don't have a high bandwidth. Since I have already downloaded it, let's go to the home of my virtual workstation 8. I haven't updated it yet, but definitely that's the first thing I want to do that. You can also download the virtual player, the VMware player, that is freely available on their official website, or you can simply Google it. It's the free version available all the way. The interface is going to be small different, but for the teaching purpose, the VMware workstation is a nice investment. Now on that version or this version, you can simply click on the create new virtual machine. That's a simple. Now the wizard will ask you what you want to have, the typical install or custom advanced user install. Since we don't have the SC, SI controller type, like we don't have any virtual disk or anything, I would recommend you to go with the typical one. Let's click on the next, and here you will find, first of all, I would recommend to choose the second option. The disk installer is pretty fine, but I want you to install from the ISO image. Click on the second option, click on the browse. Now show where actually your Kali Linux is being placed. My Kali Linux is here in this folder. Just give it a browse. Click hit on the ISO. You can see it's i386, that is a 32-bit version. Now you would have a small error that says could not detect operating system, because it might be guessing that, hey, I'm not able to guess the operating system. You have to explicitly tell me which operating system it is. Click on the next, click on the Linux and Ubuntu. That's the actual thing that you want to click on here. Now click on the next, and what you want to name the machine. I want to name it as Kali, and after that you can click on next. Now what is the minimum disk space you want to allot it? Now personally these virtual machines are being used for this specific reason because they don't consume much of the disk space. If you allot let's say 15 GB, that would be more than enough, and it won't be using 15 GB out of your C drive. It will only be using let's say more than 2 or 3 GB from your C drive, but it's the maximum limit. So click on the next, and now it's asking for the memory. 1024, it's pretty okay for me because I use a 8 GB RAM my machine, but you can anytime customize your hardware and shift this arrow from lower to upward in case you need a higher RAM or lower RAM. For Linux, I would recommend the 512 MB would be a good enough, but I want my things to be very fast, so 1 GB would be good for me. I have a 8 GB, and that's really good one for if you are using these much of virtual machine you should have. Now sometimes these specialization and virtualization pops-ups comes up. Don't worry, just click on the red cross or you can click on OK. Now it's asking for my various drivers like webcam. I would click OK. Now here it would be asking this prompt that you want to run the live, the forensics version, or you want to install it. Now unlike other machines which have their install icon just after booting up the machine and everything, Kali have a different scenario here. We just have to click on this install, and once you click on this install, you simply have to just wait for a second and let the machine boot up and show me some things. Now it's asking what is your language. Yes, of course, my preference is for English. Where you are stated, United States would be fine, but really if you are from just like my country, India, that would be good as well. You can choose your country. Which keyboard you want to use? I would prefer American English one, and that's what I'm using, and probably I guess you are using the same. Now it's installing the additional components which are out there for the Kali Linux version. Let's wait for a second and let us do all the tasks, that what are the servers and everything it is try to retrieve. Let us do that. So it's really great to have a Metasploit series and got quite a good feedback, and also I would recommend to at least go on all of my light version courses. You will definitely get a lots of knowledge out of that. So let's just wait for a couple of seconds, and really it's configuring the DHCP servers and everything else. Now what might be the host name? Now host name can be anything, like you can simply say Kali, localhost, or quite others as well, but I would like to go up with continue in the same. Yeah, domain name, you can simply click on the next time continue. We can put up the domain name later on as well, but for this series we don't require that. Now here is the root password. What you want to set the root password, that is up to you. I would really like to set the tour. That would be okay for me. Verify your password, that would be tour again. Tour, and let me go to continue. So it's detecting all my disk. My disk is good enough to install the Kali and all these things. All the partition are being. So here it is, what you want to do. Now be aware if you are installing this Kali Linux on your main machine. If you install it with the first option, you are going to delete your entire disk, entire material over it, and you are going just to install the Kali on your entire system. So my recommendation would be go to the manual one. So guided partition, what you want to have, you want to check out with this, you want to finish partitioning, and right now since I'm using a virtual machine, I can directly click on the finish partitioning and write changes to disk, because that's not going to affect my original machine and my Windows 7 prompt. So we have to first assign a root. Let me do that quickly. Okay, so it's asking me, you have note that you will be able to undo the partitioning later on. So yes, and what I can simply have is a 16 GB, create new partition. Yes, that is fine to me, that space is. What type of partition you want to have. Now if you are a Linux friendly user or not, make sure that you can only install an operating system in a primary partition and not in the logical partition. So yes, primary partition, it says mount point is slash, that need to be a slash, and also make sure that your partition type format system is ext4, that is required for the Kali one, and rest is pretty fine. I can simply say done setting up with the partition and finish partition and write changes to the disk. So I would simply say yes. write changes to disk. Yes, please write that. Now simply at this point of moment you can simply could have said that use my entire disk. That doesn't means entire C drive, and I cannot even focus more than this, that there is no harm, no possible of damaging your original system if you're trying to install everything on your virtual machine. Now that will take a couple of moments depending on whatever your RAM specification you have given and everything else, and we really don't require the video to be much longer than this. You can simply go on after this, very simple. But in case, of course, remember your root password, whatever you have set, and after this I hope you can go with yourself and you will find just after a few changes that you are completely in sync with me. And of course there will be no again prompt up from the Kali Linux side, and if there is, just drop me an email and I would be ready to help you at any point of time. So thank you so much for watching and keep enjoying the exploitation stuff.